change their posture as drastically as Michaliszyn is doing now, when things get rugged in there, they will revert back to what they know how to do. Now, you saw the right hand from Michaliszyn. That is not the way to deliver a right. He's slapping with it, and he's diminishing a lot of the power.
Haugen really uses that left jab extremely well, even though he has not followed it well with the right so far. He has kept Michaliszyn at bay, as you see him there, with a good straight left hand.
Haugen's trying to go down to the body, and that's what they indicated, his manager, Wes Wolf, indicated that he would try and do in this fight.
Haugen's been working out on the Johnny Taco gym, so you know that he is getting some good sparring as well in there, as he continues to keep Michaliszyn pretty well pinned against the ropes most of this round.
Well, in fact, Haugen's been working with Dana Roston, who we'll see a little later on, and Leroy Haley, former junior middleweight champ.
Good left hand again by Haugen as Michaliszyn was trying to go downstairs. You see the time winding down in round one. The clubbing left and right by Michaliszyn as he runs away from the assault by Haugen. A couple of good young lightweights battling out in our first fight. Be back in a moment. As our top-ranked boxing continues from Las Vegas, Greg Haugen in the light blue, powder blue, I guess, with a white stripe, against Ted Michaliszyn with the white and the black stripe. And Haugen very anxious to start round two.
Now, Haugen is working his way in with the jab, Sam, so that then he can get inside and bang to the body. That's the way to do it. And look how effective he is because of it. More so than in the first round.
Michaliszyn again trying to wade in with the... Al Bernstein, by the way, will be scoring our fights throughout the entire evening. Al, how about that first round?
Well, unlike this round in which Haugen has really come out strongly, I gave Michaliszyn the round by a very narrow margin. But right now, you see how well Haugen is doing backing Ted against the ropes.
Michaliszyn just trying to wade in with a wide right hand. Got a little uppercut inside on Haugen that time. Haugen, by the way, Al, as we had talked to those that know, and certainly him earlier this afternoon, this is a guy that's gone quite a few times, at least was scheduled to go quite a few times, and earlier 10-rounders. He's fighting a 6-rounder here.
Yeah, that's interesting that he has fought, he's fought twice, 10 rounds. Beat Chuck Peralta and beat Joe Perez in 10 rounders, and he's back doing 6-rounder because of that layoff, that 14-month layoff, which interestingly did not come because of an injury or anything. He just changed management, went with Wes Wolf, and so he had to take those 14 months off to get his act together.
Had a lot of experience in amateur routes, as you see halfway through round two. Fought over 400 amateur fights, lost but about 15 to 20 of those. Not an accurate record available to us, but again, over 400 amateur fights. That's a lot of fights.
They claim.
They claim.
Now here's where Michaliszyn now is off his bicycle. He's on the inside fighting what would presume to be Haugen's fight. Though this is the way Michaliszyn likes to fight also.
Al, anything to the Michaliszyn just trying to tire Haugen down a little in that first round by backing, or you think that's the way he wanted it?
I think he wanted to try and fight that way. I think he wanted to try and do some more boxing, but after a while just couldn't really sustain it.
Michaliszyn, by the way, has taken a leave of absence from his job here in Vegas and is now training in California and in Vegas. He is taking it dead seriously in the lightweight division, and again, this is a very key fight for him.
Oh, I think it is. He's facing a man with some experience in Haugen, and a guy, as we said, has gone 10. Maybe the best thing he has going for him is that Haugen is off that long layoff. Michaliszyn is counterpunching fairly well off those ropes.
So as the lightweights have fought near the end of round two, top-ranked boxing continues in a moment.
On the inside, off the ropes, watch Michaliszyn with that uppercut. Now that one just grazed the head of Haugen, but as we see that exchange, it's an indication Michaliszyn was counterpunching off those ropes pretty well.
Well, he's having to counterpunch again as Haugen takes the fight to him again in round number 3, scheduled for 6 in the lightweight division. Michaliszyn, by the way, wanted us to be sure and say hello to his mom back in Washington, Pennsylvania, Alice Hilton, who watches our fights on Top Rank Boxing. He hasn't seen her in about a year, so we'll certainly do that to Mr. Michaliszyn's mom back in Pennsylvania. Good straight right hand. A good uppercut by Michaliszyn.
Good hand speed by Michaliszyn. He's showing us some hand speed that not everyone thinks he has. And combination punching. It's real obvious he has worked hard on throwing more combinations.
Michaliszyn also has a shot at maybe fighting Frankie Balazar coming up, providing, of course, that he has a good outing here. And so far, so good in round 3 with Greg Haugen. Good left hand by Haugen. He's used that very well throughout the fight. Michaliszyn just standing in, Haugen toe-to-toe.
Both fighters using the jab well. And, for Haugen, he's used, I think, a heavier jab than Michaliszyn, but they're both landing that punch.
Halfway through round 3. Scheduled for 6. These are the lightweights opening up our program, a night of champions. In the North American Boxing Federation Bantamweight Division, Harold Petty up against Greg Richardson in our main event tonight.
Good uppercut by Haugen. Both fighters, at this point, are kind of mirror images of each other. Both fighting on the inside using a lot of the same weapons. Question of who uses them better. Well, I'm a little disappointed in Haugen's body work. They really were high in his body work. Wes Wolf and Johnny Taco all thought that he would do good work to the body. He hasn't done that much.
Haugen now training right here in Las Vegas, as does Ted Michaliszyn. Originally from the Seattle, Washington area, Auburn, Washington to be exact. Only 24 years of age, while Michaliszyn at 23. Left hand by Haugen starting to take a pretty good toll on the right side of the face of Michaliszyn. As indeed one of the things Al pointed out at the start of the fight is that if there's one thing Ted needs to work on, it is better defense. He does take a lot of punches. Closing seconds of round 3. Haugen and Michaliszyn will continue with more top-ranked boxing to the bell. Sam Smith and Al Bernstein in Las Vegas tonight at the Showboat. Ted Michaliszyn on the left with the white and the black trim. Powder blue and the white, that is Greg Haugen, a young man with a perfect 6-0 record. But again, out of boxing for the last 14 months, trying to regroup himself. Al, you're scoring through the first round so far.
By a very narrow margin. I gave Michaliszyn the last round because he was a little busier than Haugen. And Haugen just kind of stopped punching there for a while in that round. But it was still a pretty close round, and this is a very close fight.
Michaliszyn will go into his dreams tonight, visualizing that left straight jab, I know, from Haugen. He has used it very successfully.
He has, probably not as much as he'd like. There was a point in the second round where he started jabbing his way in, doubling up on his jab, and then once he got in there, very busy to the body and the head. That, I think, is the fight plan that Haugen would like to utilize.
Michaliszyn, one of the things also in taking that leave of absence from work, he's saying in his training, as you see a good combination there by Haugen, is that he's getting a lot more sparring. It's not so much he has to pick it up when he can't come from work. He now can pick up the sparring when it's needed. And he said that is helping a bit. Right now, Haugen is not helping him, though, here in round 4.
You know, when Haugen gets him on the ropes, though, where you expect Haugen to do the job, Michaliszyn's doing something I think very important, and that is he is throwing punches. He is countering, and he hit Haugen with the right hand before they really discouraged him from punching when he's on the rope.
Halfway through this, the 4th round.
You can see that Haugen is more wary when he gets Ted cornered.
There's that straight left, kind of almost a cross by Haugen, again catching Michaliszyn on the flesh of the face, which is continuing to redden even more. Good double jab by Haugen as he gets inside there, Al, as you pointed out a moment ago.
You know, I'm surprised he's not following up behind that. The left jab setting up the right hand. He could go with the left hook to the body. And still, where's all the body work from Haugen that he was going to use?
So it's all her opponent. Haugen probably could be downstairs a little easier.
Fight. A lot of punches, a lot of activity, and even in a 6-rounder, you might start to look for one of them to slow down just a little.
One of the things Al pointed out earlier, they're almost mirroring each other in the fact that they're both fighting similar fights. even though Haugen probably getting the left jab a little bit more in than Michaliszyn, who's trying to throw the big right.
I remember the first round, I said I thought Michaliszyn might go back to this, and that is what he did after boxing the first round.
These lightweights are scheduled to go 6 rounds. They're coming to the conclusion of round number 4. Start of round 5. Ted Michaliszyn in the white, and again Greg Haugen in the powder blue. These two fighters have been very, very even through their first rounds, quite obviously. And the scoring will probably reflect that very shortly here as we continue to watch round 5 as it progresses very much what we had in round 4.
It probably will reflect that, Sam, but I bet you peaked.
Did I peak?
No. You may have. It's hard to tell.
This is round 5. We were watching in both of the corners. Neither one of these fighters are known for fighters that do cut that easily. We're watching to see if there's any nicks or bumps or bruises. And Michaliszyn has bitten his tongue. He does have a little pain inside the mouth as he does have a little blood coming in. It is from a cut on the tongue inside. But that is the only scrape that is bleeding at the moment by either one of the
And they've
fighters.
both taken a lot of shots, so I think there might be something.
Now, as this fight progresses in round 5, going for 6 rounds, do you need to take the initiative right now? Is this the round to do it?
Yeah, I would, because either of these fighters could easily feel, and I have it dead even, I've given 2 rounds apiece to each fighter. I've got a 38-38, so I think either fighter could assume that it's that way on at least 1 or 2 of the judges' scorecards, and this is the round to put on the gas.
Good right hand by Michaliszyn after a right hand by Haugen. He comes back with a good left hand, but Michaliszyn just keeps coming in.
Well, Ted Michaliszyn has a very good chin. It's tough to discourage him. Haugen's finding that out. I think some rust on the part of Haugen. He hasn't been able to put his punches together as well as he'd like after that 14-month layoff.
Right hand again, followed with a pretty good left that time by Haugen, but again it is Michaliszyn just staying in there, throwing some good punches here.
He's getting the left hook into the head, but you know what I don't understand? I don't understand why he isn't doubling up with it to the body and the head. That really is the kind of fighter he is, so you would think he'd be doing it.
Under a minute here in round 5, scheduled for 6. There's that double left jab. As a matter of fact, triple left jab, that time by Haugen, keeping Ted back on his heels.
Haugen getting very aggressive here in this round.
That may be the instructions we talked about, Al, at the start of the round, is that's what his corner certainly told him. Right hand again by Haugen.
That right may have stunned Ted Michaliszyn a little bit. Ted looks like he is just a little bit fatigued at this point. And now Haugen, you see him going to the body a little bit.
So Haugen, who has scored well with the left hand, is now countering with a good right on the ropes here against Michaliszyn. Round number 5 will send it to the next and final round in a moment.
Last round, Haugen put together his punches much better, and there was a good indication, punctuated that with a good right hand to the head of Ted Michaliszyn.
That was a punch he had not used in the early rounds that much, following a very good jab. But again, you see, he does have some good force in that right hand, and this is round 6. Scoring, Al Bernstein, how do you look at it going to the 6th and final round?
I gave the last round to Haugen. I have him labeled 48-47, and he is starting to hurt Michaliszyn with those right hands, which, as you pointed out, Sam, he didn't use much early in the fight.
Was pretty much content to stay with a straight left, but now he's found the right. Michaliszyn fighting back pretty well here in the 6th round, however.
I think of the two fighters, Michaliszyn looks a little bit more tired right now. Haugen looked like he was fading a little in the 3rd round, but then caught his 2nd wind, and he's been very tough now.
Keep in mind that Haugen indeed has gone 10 rounds twice, but he's had a 14-month layoff. You would not really be able to tell it just from what we've seen in these 6 rounds, though. Young man now training in Las Vegas. I think I have a little indication you're going to see a lot more of him on Top Rank Boxing. From Michaliszyn's corner to throw everything you've got here in round 6.
He does not have that much left on his punches. And finally, you talked about no cuts. There's a little blood from the bridge of the nose of Michaliszyn. And Haugen is working better on the inside than he was before.
the time winding down in the final round.
This could be a very close fight, too. This last minute or so could have a big impact. I've obviously only got Haugen ahead by 1 point, and the judges, Dave Moretti, Chuck Minker, and Dalby Shirley will have a tough time in looking this one over.
This has been a good-looking lightweight fight, as we, of course, didn't know that much about Haugen. We were quite impressed from what we've seen so far. Michaliszyn needed a big fight, and he's having a good fight here against Haugen, at least trying to continue to stay in it in the 6th, as tight as this fight is. Good right hand by Michaliszyn. Good right hand by Haugen as he comes running in for it.
Well, you know, that overhand right was non-existent for 4 rounds, and in the last 2 rounds, Haugen has found a home for it. Look at Ted Michaliszyn, though. No one will ever say that he does not have heart. He continues to come forward. He's taking some big shots in this round.
Closing seconds of the 6th round, Michaliszyn pawing that right hand into the face of Haugen. Pretty good combination. Haugen coming back, trying to load up for that big right hand here in the 6th. Now unofficially, and Haugen leading going to this final round, but again, it could be a very, very close one before it's all over tonight. So there's the bell as the lightweights have fought for 6 full rounds here. Ted Michaliszyn and Greg Haugen getting a nice round of applause here at the Showboat Sports Pavilion. We'll be back with a decision of this first bout of the night after this. On the right, waiting the decision, Chuck Hall has that official announcement in the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, all 3 judges, Chuck Minker, Dave Moretti, and Dalby Shirley, score the bout 58-56 for the winner by unanimous decision, and still undefeated, Greg Haugen.
So Greg Haugen picks up the unanimous decision here tonight, as he has come to Las Vegas and has shown very well against Ted Michaliszyn and had an outstanding fight in the lightweights. Our man Al Bernstein had it 58-56, so he had it very close. Well, the featherweights are coming up. Adrian Arreola, along with Dana Rawson. We'll be back with that.